have some responsibility and ownership over as well. Maybe you've seen it or maybe you haven't, but Shawn Bolz just got found out and a huge investigation was made by Mike Winger, 6-hour video on Mike Winger's channel about sexual abuse allegations and about lying about prophetic words of knowledge that he data mined through social media outlets to fake prophetic words to build clout, to build his ministry presence, and to get platformed by individuals. He was platformed by Bethel leaders as well as others, and those Bethel leaders have actually had to issue out massive amounts of apology and ownership over the last week. And as a Bethel alumni of the ministry school, who I was there in Reading for 7 years, friends with many leaders there, I got an email from the alumni department to the 18,000 Bethel alumni of all of their ownership and apologies before they issued a service this past Sunday. But it made me want to make a video on what went down with Shawn Bolz, what I believe led to it, some of what has created this in church culture, maybe some of what you have some responsibility and ownership over as well, so that we can avoid situations like this moving forward. I made this video for you if you're looking for healing in the emotional and mental experiences of what happened, some of the spiritual dynamics, if you felt betrayed, if you felt grieved, if you've experienced loss inside of this, if this sparked different histories of abuse you've gone through or religious or spiritual manipulation. I made this video for you so that there can be at least something that you feel like articulates some of the process that went into this whole Shawn Bolz experience. And so I wanted to share my experience of it for you to hopefully help you in any of this process that'd be helpful, and just to bring more information to light. I hope you enjoy the video. A lot of news came out this past week or so, specifically from a video from Mike Winger about Shawn Bolz, this prophetic minister that's known by some of the charismatic circles in Christianity and maybe not known by a lot of others. But if you have been affiliated with Bethel or have listened to any of their music, watched their sermons, or been in the charismatic space at all and followed some of the things that came out about Mike Bickle, or even been involved with Hillsong, or, you know, some of these different charismatic circles, Vineyard, and there's so many that I honestly am not a part of, but I know with like the Toronto Revival and Lonnie Frisbee is like super historical. People have been involved in the charismatic church, and I grew up Baptist, Southern Baptist, and I got very heavily involved in the charismatic church. So involved that I ended up going to Bethel School of Ministry, attended for 3 years, lived in Reading for 7 years, and had many interactions at different times with prophetic leaders, Shawn Bolz several times. And I watched the video, at least a third of the 6-hour video from Mike Winger. I watched the apologies from the Bethel leadership staff that apologized, but kind of gave like a half-ass response the first time, and then more of an ownership responsibility response the second time. I watched how this whole thing started unfolding publicly and what started coming out. And I started realizing that we actually had Shawn Bolz speak to our clients some years ago. And I had talked about his book and read his book, and at the time liked it, but noticed that I felt some different things. And I just noticed like too, I had these words that I got from Shawn Bolz when I was at Bethel conferences that gave me inspiration, gave me a feeling of connection to God, hope in something that he was speaking to me. And I'd realized when this whole thing went down with Shawn Bolz, having been involved with sexual abuse allegations, as well as fake prophetic words and data mining to give prophetic words. And then Bethel, because of their leadership response, I received an email as a Bethel alumni from the leadership staff taking ownership for things. So I wanted to bring up these things because to some degree in our platforms, and YouTube is a new one for me, we have really processed these things and given a lot of trust, a lot of our trust we've had towards Bethel and different leadership. We've extended to, we've let any places of influence we've had, we have extended our trust to those different people and their platforms and felt the need to start speaking on this. I wanted to have a conversation and just bring up some of why I think Bethel and churches get involved with cover-up culture, how destructive I think it truly is, what Shawn Bolz was involved in with his prophetic ministry, what I speculate was the reason why he might have gotten involved in that type of fake prophecy to begin with, and some of what I think has happened in the church as a result, the organization of church maybe not running the way that God had originally intended, and some of the platforms and pedestals that we create and feel the necessity to step into, and some of how we create culture around praising the gift over character. So a few things though, because we've worked with thousands of life coaching clients now, and we really, I have had many clients that have dealt with religious abuse, people that have a place of spiritual and religious authority, abusing that authority in someone's life, whether that's to take advantage of them personally, one-on-one, or whether it's to get a need met, like significance or acceptance or something from your gift coming out. And it can be so destructive. And when you start to work with the victims of different experiences like this, you see that this is not a victimless crime that's been committed. This is truly something that is abusive. The more that I'm a believer, the longer that I'm a Christian, I learned that people, humanity, human beings cannot be placed on a pedestal. And I think the longer you are a Christian, and the more you've been involved in different circles or streams of Christianity, you start to realize how unhealthy it can be to start to derive your source of needs from a person or even a community. When we're in the most vulnerable of experiences in our lives, sometimes it's really easy to attach all of our core needs to a person or a community or a movement. I got a word from Shawn Bolz years ago, and he was going around this prayer line. It was kind of funny because we all line up and everybody's waiting to hear the word from the special anointed man. And he's going around, he's giving everybody a word. And there's literally like 1,000 people in this big auditorium over at Bethel. And he's going one by one, he's giving prophetic words, and he comes up to me and he's like, media. He's like, I just see media on you and impacting families. And I see leader of leaders, and there's a youth movement on you. And he shares all these different things. And then a year later, sees me, doesn't recognize you, probably because he's seen thousands of people, gives me the same word almost. And I was like, is that just what you do? You just give people the same word? And he's like, oh yeah. And he's like, we kind of played it off. I think back then, I didn't feel like anything was off. I didn't feel like anything was weird. But then some years into it, you started noticing that Shawn Bolz started getting more and more clear and precise with different words of knowledge and prophecies.